Hey, welcome listeners to United in Green. We're back again. Second week breaking down games. We got a couple of games to look at today. I'm here with my good friend Will. How you doing today, Will?
Well, it's rainy and it's a Tuesday, but we're talking about some football, so it's better now.
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. It's good way to think about it. And of course, we have our man with the plan, Tyler the creator. How you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, rainy day, also smoky and weirdly hazy for a long stretch, which was odd. But yeah, glad to be here talking about football on a rainy Tuesday.
Yeah, I had this I had all those like the dandelion fuzzies flying around my house yesterday, and it was like almost like it was snowing, but it had the haze of the wildfires in Canada, and that kind of sucked. It was tough to be outside trying to grill, but you do it. You got to do what you got to do for the family to eat.
Yeah, you got it. And when you're as good a griller as you are, that
Oh
smoked pork
Jesus.
butt from this past weekend, you got to grill. It's for the people.
You got to do it. You got to do it. Well, yeah. I mean, I figure we just get right into it, and we can start talking about the weekend game. We have two games to break down. I mean, this week's a lot of fixture congestion. We had the game on Saturday. We had a game on Monday. Both league games. We got a friendly coming up, and then right back into the weekend, we got another game that's away. So let's start talking about what we saw with Seacoast United. Tyler, you want to get us rolling here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying, not the result that the team or the fans wanted, but first and foremost, worth pointing out that it was a heck of a fight. We knew it was going to be a tough game. These are, perennial contenders for division winners. So, and we saw how good they were last year. It was going to be a fight, and it was a fight. I think my takeaway from the whole thing was that the scoreline doesn't reflect the game. We had way more possession, we had more chances, and just there's a couple of mistakes along the way that led to giving up two. I think at least two of the three goals were, you know, individual errors or collective errors, but a tough loss, but not totally unexpected. And I think the team bounced back nicely in the next game, and I think for us as fans, seeing how hard those boys played, it's hard to even to walk away feeling like you were let down. That was a good fight and a hard fight, and we'll get them next time.
Yeah, I mean, we were pretty hyped coming into the game. As far as the fans go, I mean, you could feel a little groundswell, kind of building in the parking lot. A lot of people are excited going into the game. We were excited, having a great time in the lot, the Green Mountain Boys. We had some food in us, we were getting some drinks, and I was excited and I was nervous, and we get into the game, and we hit our spots, and for me, right off the bat, I thought I thought we were gonna run this team.
Yeah.
It was certainly high energy, lots of possession immediately. And I don't know what Will thought about the immediate impact that the left side with Messer and Gavork. I mean, that was something else. That goal was something else.
Yeah, obviously the third or fourth minute, to go up early against, a major rival was a great start. I really think that, in a sense, it's a new team. Seacoast knows we were good from last year, but how good is a question. And, we come out and we jump them essentially, in the fourth minute. I think everyone kind of expected smooth sailing from there. But, I think this was a game where, if Seacoast weren't necessarily deadly with the ball, they finished their opportunities. And I think that, I'm sure the first message out of Coach Pfeiffer at practice the next day was, we're going to work on some corners because, it's tough to give up, two headers on corners. And, I can't imagine that, Coach was happy with that.
Yeah. They came out of the gates so hot, and obviously the fourth minute goal helps. There was a chance in the seventh minute that was really close. The press was on. We were winning second balls and intercepting a lot of passes in the midfield. Like, everything was clicking. And then I remember sort of feeling that maybe I think Seacoast had a chance like in the 12th minute, and then they kind of leveled the ship. And somewhere in the 20th or so minute, I just felt like, okay, like this is kind of like a holding pattern, which is fine. But, I think there was a general sense of nerves in the crowd that 1-0 wasn't going to be enough. And we had a lot of possession. There were a bunch of chances, but it just didn't feel like totally like it was locked in. And that ended up being the case.
I feel like, yeah, Seacoast is that type of a team that will, they don't necessarily have to come out on the front foot. They can kind of settle into the game and wait for the game to come to them. And they certainly did that. They played to their strengths. For me, I didn't think they were a particularly good side. I think they were strong. They were strong defensively. They played well in the midfield, but their attack didn't really seem that exciting to me. With a team like Vermont Green, I mean, who so far has shown us that we can hold possession. We're strong in the midfield, and that helps us to be strong defensively. I have to agree with Will. Like, this team needs to possibly, find a way to work on some corners and maybe get some set piece coaching in there. I think a lot of our second half, a lot of our crosses weren't hitting either. They just into space on the far post and nobody's there, so that's, it's kind of tough, when, you give up a rough goal. That first goal that they scored was kind of a rough goal. And for me, that kind of turned the tide right there and set things in motion for the rest of the match.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, obviously Seacoast is a good team, but the thing that I really walk away with is that they're a big team. I mean, these were tall guys. Their center back sat back in the box, pretty much the entirety of the game. I think Gavork had a great strike to go up early, and I sat back wondering why not recreate that move. A lot of the time it felt like we were getting to the box after that, and the end product sort of fizzled out there. And then I think we sort of switched to, a lot of crossing. And again, it's either we, targeted the inside of the box and, their massive defenders cut it out, or we shot it over to connect on the wing, and the winger wasn't home or was out of position. And so it felt like an off night. And I think that physicality made it tough going. Any sort of creativity in the box, wasn't really there. I think that was just a night where the defenders just really got the better of our players. Even in the second half when we switched up, put new players on there, and it still wasn't producing what we were looking for. I think Charlie Adams is a fantastic player, but I kind of envision him more in the interior. Obviously I'm not the coach, but I just feel like, his ball carrying is more suited on the interior midfield than, perhaps running at pace down the wing. So I'm curious to see, the next time we get to watch a match, how we address that. I think there may be some more players with different packages and tools that can perhaps, offer a little more in that area for teams like this. That's not to say that I don't think Charlie Adams is fantastic. I do. I just think that the way Seacoast set up really sort of stymied him, and it was tough going.
I almost feel like the team was a victim of their own success. I think, picking the lock that early in the game, and you think, oh, we got this. And, had we not scored that early goal, I think it would have been a very different approach and a different sort of feel to the game. Of sort of like a lot of possession, a lot of ball moving around the top of the box, trying to work our way through. And I think Gavork and Messer just had like a wonderful interplay on the left side, and we're just like getting tons of chances in the first 20, 30 minutes. And I think Seacoast decided and realized that they had to shut that down pretty quickly. And once that channel was sort of like stifled, then it became harder and harder to create chances. I think Zach Zenke coming on the second created a lot of energy, a lot of movement, and you could see some more opportunities coming from his inclusion. But look, like their defense was amazing. I mean, Max Murray's a big, strong, tall dude. We saw him playing for UVM. And every cross was either cut out by their center backs or was forced wide because of their being there. And so you're sort of moving the ball back and forth, but not getting those sort of like really golden opportunities in the middle. So, credit to them for playing strong defense. I think we had a ton of, not a ton of chances, but plenty of chances to change the overall feel of the game. But it's tough. They were a strong defensive team. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, I mean, they I think that once they got that second goal, it became a situation of they're kind of playing that Burnley kind of park the bus, pack the box kind of a thing, and settled in and wanted, and rightfully so, trying to take the 3 points, because in this league, 3 points is so valuable, man. I mean, it can't be understated. So, I just think going forward, there are some things to work on. We're going to see some new players coming in too. I mean, we still have a couple of center backs coming from out west. And so you never know what's going to happen, how the squad is going to shape up. But these first 4 games, taking 9 points isn't that bad. It's not a terrible thing. We got some big games coming up, and like I said, a lot of fixture congestion in here. Some guys looking to make their mark, some guys trying to keep their spots. I think guys like Gavork and Zach Zenge are they're going to benefit from a little bit of a rest here and there. So I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about how Coach Pfeiffer is rotating the squad. Do you think he's rotating it enough? Do you think we're getting guys? Obviously, we talked about how Charlie Adams, what might work better, and he's a better ball carrier, so he can work better through the inside, be more creative, and put somebody like Zach on the outside. Or do you think that we just need more rotation, give more players chances in possibly different situations?
Well, it's a little, curious because we have a pretty set formation with, we have a forward, and then we have 3 midfielders, 2 double pivot, and, that kind of limits, sort of that 10 spot, for the amount of players you can put in with the more attacking skill set in the midfield. So, so you're sort of looking at like a Zengi or a Kamal in that spot. And Zengi definitely offers a lot of that directness that I like. I'd almost be willing, I'd be interested to see, if using that double pivot, perhaps putting somebody more attacking in there, having Pacella sort of, take more of an underlying 6 role to see if that would change things around. I'm also just curious to see more players rotate through. We really haven't seen, all too much of a lot of these players, frankly. We've, Dylan Lane and Probo, they both started against BlackRock, but we really haven't had the opportunity to see them play. So I'm definitely curious to see what they can offer. We've had so much success to start, but I don't think that, this dip against Seacoast means that we ran out of ideas at all. I think that, we just came up against a team that lined up right, but I think there's a lot of creativity and options left in this team. And I'm curious to see that as we move forward on that. And the other thing to keep in mind is that, we went into this game, talking of how big it was and how big of a deal it was. But, you look at the standings, and, when we're talking about finishing in the top 2 to guarantee a playoff spot, obviously you can get, into the playoffs with the 3rd spot, but that's more dependent on other divisions. Pioneers are only 2 points ahead of us with, and we have a game in hand on them. They've drawn twice. So, it's very much in play here. And we're right there up, with Seacoast and Pioneers as far as goal differential. Pioneers have this lopsided goal differential from that 10-1 they put up. But, you take that away and, we scored, so if we can magically erase games, what I'm saying is with that anomaly, we're right there with them with the attacking and the defense. And so, I think there's plenty of season left to go. And, I'm definitely looking forward to that Pioneers game, which is going to be the next home game, actually. So I think that's probably, what the coach has in mind. Obviously we've got some games between there. But I'm definitely thinking about, that. And I think that Boston City and Albany probably present some pretty great opportunities to, get back into the groove of things. Boston City's, lost every game. So, negative 15 goal differential. So I think, we have some opportunity to build some momentum going to that match.
Yeah, I think, it's far too early in the season to start panicking in any capacity whatsoever. And I would even go so far as to say I think there's a real value into running up against a team like Seacoast early in the season. Obviously, like the outcome, a win would have been nice, but I think, facing the other two teams that are going to be fighting for these top two spots this early in the season, to getting a sense of like what that level of play feels like, and the sting of defeat, I would argue that there's some benefit there. I think, it's when you're winning games 3-0 on a consistent basis, you don't have to start thinking about other approaches or other ways to win games if you're winning quite easily. So I think there's a real sort of tactical and psychological benefit to sort of like, hitting that wall and being like, all right, like, how do we solve this problem when we come across it next time? And and it was, again, not for lack of heart and hustle. Like, those guys are out there giving it their all, and it's just good to get a sense of what the competition's doing. And yeah, I think, it's hard to get a sense of where the standings will be this early in the season, but it definitely seems like we are keeping pace and, keeping pressure on Western Mass and Seacoast.
Also, the one shame is that the Seacoast away fixture is a Tuesday night, so makes an away day pretty difficult. Because I really want to give it back to their fans and their players after they shushed us on Saturday after they scored. So, but hey,
I told you, and I told you that they were going to be up for the game, and they were going to want us to be cheering as hard as we were. We have a listener question coming in from friend of the pod, Tyson. He wanted to know what could we learn from this game, as both as a team and as fans. I think we've kind of talked about how we're gonna learn from as a team, but how as fans can we learn from this game?
I mean, I'll just say a losing day at Virtue is better than a winning day pretty much anywhere else in this division. I mean, there's 2,500 people there. The atmosphere was just awesome before and after. Like, support throughout was great. Seeing the players talking to families and kids afterwards was amazing. There's just no other experience in the league that I can think of, at least in our division, that matches what's happening up here. So I think from a fan perspective, like, it was great, outcome aside. And I think, even in talking to some of the players afterwards, like, walking around with my kids after and talking to Daniel, and you could just see that they were exhausted. They'd given every ounce of effort they could. And there was like genuine disappointment there, and a feeling that they'd sort of, done everything but let folks down. And that's not the sense, I think, in talking to you guys. Like, nobody felt let down by the effort at all. It was just a tough game. But yeah, I mean, from fan perspective, scoreline aside, just like an amazing atmosphere, amazing fans, and like, yeah, it's hard to top that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I told you guys, I told the Green Mountain boys that, like, talked to Gavork after the game, saw him in the parking lot with my daughter. He was walking through with Musa, and he apologized, to us. And as I think as fans, we can take a little, we use that as a learning experience, that these guys do care. They're not big time professional players who are getting paid big time contract money. They're out there working to be that player, working to be that person. But they do care about the club and about the community, and in the fans. So I mean, that was kind of my takeaway, was that they have already have built an intense love for the fan base, and and care about us as much as we care about them, and pleasing us and putting out a good product on the field. And for me, that's pretty awesome, and it doesn't matter whether or not these guys are big superstars, or for me, I always get kind of starstruck talking to these guys, because they do things that I never could do and I never have done, and to be able to go do that and entertain people and then come off the field and still be a good person is, that's pretty friggin' cool, man. We have one more question coming in. This is from our friends at Vivid Coffee. And it's kind of off of the game itself, but it says it's a question about the US Open Cup. So in order to qualify for that, we have to win the division. So he said, we have to win the division to qualify for the US Open Cup, right? The playoffs would be cool, but how dope would the US Open Cup be? Yeah, I mean, obviously it's gonna be, it would be pretty cool. I don't think that's the end goal necessarily, is to get to that tournament. I think that would be super cool myself.
I mean, it's funny that question was raised. I was in Pittsburgh this past fall and got to swing by the Riverhounds Stadium there, and they're hosting Cincy tonight. And yeah, I mean, it's really just the beauty of this this competition is that, we could conceivably have, LAFC swinging by Burlington, Vermont for a friendly showdown. And that'd be amazing. And I think, fingers crossed that something like that happens.
Yeah. So they also mentioned that they think that at Vivid Coffee, I think the defeat will wake the boys up, man, help them to not to get so comfortable in the future with, in the difficult matchups. I mean, again, one upsetting kind of loss isn't going to derail the entire season. I mean, we've already actually bettered our season start from last year. And I think a team and a coaching staff like Vermont Green is a team that will learn, and they'll get better as the season goes on, and the players get better as they're coached through the system, and adding new pieces here and there into that system for these guys to learn is going to make it harder for opposing teams to defend us. That virtue is going to be hopping, man. And I'm excited I'm still excited for the rest of the season. I'm excited for the next couple of weeks here. It's gonna be an exciting time in Burlington.
Look, I think the Seacoast game is probably more of an aberration than anything else at this point of the season. The data suggesting. I mean, we've played, 3 other league games in a friendly. 2 of those in away, and every other game this season we've scored 2 to 3 goals, and we haven't had any goals scored against. So, I think this team can do it on the road. I think we've kept 4 clean sheets out of 5 in all competitions. And we got beat by Seacoast, and I don't think that's going to be an indicator of how the rest of the season goes. I think if we want to talk about US Open Cup, I would love that personally, but that's still on the table. So we just need to keep plugging away here. I think that I can confidently predict that I believe we're going to win the next 2, on the road. And then I think we'll roll in with Virtue Field with Western Mass and put on a show. And I think then, we'll see where we're at after that point. So, it does hurt to lose against Seacoast at home for the 2nd year in a row. But I don't think that they're even thinking about this game anymore. The players, I don't think they're thinking about it anymore.
No, hell no.
I mean, I think really like it's hard. It's just like going to sound strange, but it's a good kind of loss. It wasn't a total collapse. It wasn't total domination. We obviously don't have the stats, specific stats, but I reckon we had what 70% possession, maybe. It was like a lot
65 at least, at the very least.
it was we held on to the ball. We had a lot of chances. The first goal was just like a pinball, like unlucky, sloppy corner. The second one was just like, a bad giveaway that led to a series of misadventures and like two missed clearances. And look, like it sounds weird to say this, but like it was some odd circumstances and some, individual mistakes as opposed to like an entire like systemic failure. And that's kind of like always sounded like a weird argument to me because like a game is nothing but individual choices and like along the way, but like some of those choices are bigger than others. For those of you who watch I Think You Should Leave, sometimes one egg is 40 eggs. But it's not like we got blown out of the water. And I think it's just going to be a blip looking back at the end of the season, a blip along the way where like, oh yeah, that happened, but it's not going to be the thing that defines the team or the season by any stretch. Thoughts on, we didn't have a stream for
I was gonna say, talking about epic failures. What I mean, it is 2023, right? I get that it's a developmental league. Maybe they don't have a lot of fans there, which watching some of the highlights from the sideline video that Vermont Green FC was taking, there weren't many fans there. It seemed like there were more people cheering for Vermont Green there, but at the same time, you are a pre-professional club with a youth academy system. You got to have a camera. Like it's really not that hard. I mean, my son's youth team setup has a camera that they put up at the games to track the players and do player development stuff. This is not it's not a hard thing to do. Like I said, it's 2023. Get your shit together, BlackRock.
Look, I'm not defending BlackRock, but I will say it does show the gulf in projects in this not only this division, but I think in the USL2 in general. It's inconceivable. We have been in existence for a season and 4 games, and it's already inconceivable to our fans that there isn't a NESN quality stream of the game. And I think that goes to show just the absolute appetite of our quickly growing club. If we can spin it positively, I mean, it would just be inconceivable to us at this point not to stream our games. And
we have slow motion replay.
Clubs like BlackRock, I don't know how long they've been around, but that's the thing. But for us in this nascent club, it's inconceivable, and it shows the passion. If we're gonna spin it into any sort of positive, which I'm trying to do, I was really pissed not to be able to watch that game. But I'm sure our voices were heard about that. I'm sure that it got back to BlackRock that Vermont Green and their fans were annoyed. But hey,
enough of this amateur BS.
Pulling back even more big picture, I do graphic design for a living, and having worked with a couple of other USL2 clubs and sort of generally having a sense of what other clubs are putting into their marketing and branding and sort of game day experience stuff, it really is like an insanely wide range of like bare bones, next to nothing. Like, oh, you show up, there's probably a game going on, to places like Vermont Green and Minneapolis SC, and like there are places that are doing really amazing things as USL2 clubs and are generating like really good match day experiences and fan loyalty and just like professional level streams, jerseys, like it's pretty wild going from like team to team and seeing the difference. And yeah, let's put a positive spin on it. We're really lucky to have super high quality streams consistently, amazing commentators. It's just the whole thing's like a great experience in the stadium and if you're watching from afar. So hats off to everybody who's doing the good stuff.
I love how positive you guys are. I'm not necessarily a happy clapper all the time.
Well, here's the thing. I have a question for you. Speaking of graphic design, did the fact that Seacoast were just running around in their knockoff bullshit Man City kits not just piss you off even more?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the super basic flat blue man sort of
Quite
kit.
short.
White
Mhm.
short kind of matches their overall vibe, and I'll leave it at that. Just sort of like, oh yeah, like it's fine. It's kind of like, if you got like just plain vanilla at Ben and Jerry's, you'd be writing about it or talking about it days later. You'd be fine with it, but it's not going to be the best thing you've ever had. Yeah, the Man City color did not help. Apologies to Man City fans, but
I'm
also,
not apologizing to them,
also no
but
apology whatsoever.
no, it just really struck, it really, hammers home how fortunate we are and frankly obsessed we are as Vermont Green fans with our kits, to think that their plain blue is just
Look, let's
untenable. I mean, we're the fashion icons of the league so far, and
Let's
I think
let's positive spin this one as well. On the same day that we were playing plain blue, like store-bought boring kits, Vermont Green sold out of the amazing spring kits that Matt Wolf designed, and they're probably, being worn all around the world and will soon be like restocked and worn by even more people. So yeah, let's take the positive view of this one as well.
And look, I love that wildflower kit, but I'm also a tie-dye enjoyer. So if there anybody else is out there, wear that kit to the stadium, because I'm still wearing it. I feel like I'm the only one, but
My son wore his.
I
My
love
son
that
wore
kit.
his. Yeah. Yeah, it's a good kit, man. I mean, we're not, hurting for really much of anything with this club. I mean, we're like you said, we're super fortunate, like we have our good streams, we have good match day experiences with food and beverage. The good folks at Plink and Vivid Coffee. Vivid Coffee even provided fresh goddamn strawberries for the kids this weekend. I mean,
Absolute Kings, yeah.
what other kind of stuff can you ask for? We have alcoholic beverages, we have beverages for the kids, we have cheesesteaks, we have onigiri, we have a wealth of great stuff, plus giveaways and that kind of stuff. Ben and Jerry's is there. Like, the match day experience is second to none. We have that great stream with the slow-mo instant replays. We got great announcers on the stream. We got a great announcer in the booth on field. We got a great supporters group. We have a great, just amazing, group of fans, and that's all outside of what is provided for the rest of the community and the fans that's on the field. Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this every single day, and we're so fortunate to have that. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Well, as long as we're on this tangent, because frankly, it's hard to talk about the game against BlackRock, which we didn't see. What was your guys' reaction to the Men in Blazers event? Because I don't think we've touched on it, and that's a big deal. What were your guys' thoughts?
I always think it's interesting to hear the outside perspective on something that you're really close to or that you're involved in, because I feel like it's very easy, almost like in response to our conversation about how fortunate we are, it's very easy to lose sight of what you have or what you're doing, or to appreciate sort of what's been done around you. And to have Raj come up and visit is amazing, and to have him sort of go through the origin story and continuing saga of Vermont Green, and hear him asking the questions and responding and leading listeners from all over the world through this journey, made me it was getting dusty in there, I'll be honest, man. I was like, yeah, what's happening here is really amazing. It's really exceptional. And to hear somebody come from the outside and sort of pick apart that story and be like, this is just bonkers, was awesome. I loved hearing his take on it and hearing him share it with the rest of the world.
It's a real megaphone, because have you seen the guests he has? Have you seen their social media footprint? I mean, I can't imagine how many people was their first time ever hearing about us was from this podcast. And, I think I think it's made a difference, and we may not see those effects for now, but it definitely puts us on the stage of this little passion project that people are now aware of, and it doesn't feel so little when you're stuck in the middle of it. But when you kind of zoom out and you have these large scale audiences like Men in Blazers, it's kind of surreal.
You think we're gonna have a welcome to Wrexham in Vermont here? No, I honestly like. And the guy is so genuinely like excited and excitable. Like, talking to him, just like we got to go up on stage and sing the song, right? And that was super fun. And then like he left his show notes there. We kind of all took some, and I got the show notes signed, and he was so genuinely nice and excited to sign that for me. I said, sorry, Raj, I stole, one of your show notes, and can you sign it for me? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then he said, who should I sign it to? And I was like, Mike. Well, actually, all my friends call me Poppy. And he wrote Mike, and then he wrote Poppy on the other side, and then he wrote underneath 2 names. which I found pretty goddamn funny. Like the guy was like, he took an actual interest and was listening to me when I spoke to him. And then, of course, our friend of the pod, Terry, had to tell him that I was a Spurs supporter, and he started up a nice little "he hates his friends," so that was kind of wonderful for me. I mean, so I have my own takeaway from it, but I mean, it was great for him to come and again, like, be so gracious and so excited to be in Vermont,
And
and
he covered a
do
lot
all
of
the Vermont stuff. Yeah.
he just like while checking his feed during his like 48 hours here, he hit up like a couple dozen places in the greater Burlington area and definitely got as good a sense as you can of what Burlington's all about in a short span. And yeah, I mean, I'll just echo what you said. Like, he's a genuine dude. Like, seeing him before and after the show and during the show, like, that's just what you see is what you get. And that's always like a nice thing to discover about someone that you really like, is that their public persona is also their like actual persona. So Raj, thanks for coming up.
If you're listening.
I'm sure you are.
So I think we're coming up on some time here, guys. Again, like, we have a little bit of fixture congestion coming up, but obviously some winnable games. And then we have the Western Mass game coming up on Father's Day weekend, back at Vivid Field. Or Vivid Field, Virtue Field.
Oh,
I got that Vivid coffee on
premonition.
I did it again. That's the second week in a row.
Maybe sights to come.
It will be Vivid Coffee Field, Vivid Coffee Stadium, maybe someday. But we have a home match that's going to be fun to watch. It's another friendly, and that club's coming up to give the fans a show. Hopefully we get to see some of our favorites again. Get to see Sam McCann, who joined us in the stands this week, which was really nice to again sit and talk with Sam, get his ideas on what was happening in the Seacoast game. Would love to have him on again, and going forward, let's put Seacoast behind us and move on. Any final thoughts from you guys?
I just want to shout out really quick that DRBN scored again. I think he's up to 4 goals on the season. Is it 4 goals? It's at least 3.
It's either three or 4.
Yeah. I choose to believe 4. By the way, Vermont Green, if you're listening, put the stats on the website. I'd love to see goals and assists. But anyway, I'm off topic here. I think he's a fantastic player. Love seeing him play. And he's starting almost every match now. So, I hope to see him score some more goals.
Yep. Yeah, amazing start. He and Zach have been outstanding. I think Musa has also been like a defensive revelation in midfield, and shout out to Daniel Pacella for just doing putting in the miles and doing the dirty work in the midfield. That's an unsung spot, and he's consistently doing that. But yeah, onward and upward, and I think we're looking at a string of wins ahead of us. Before that, a friendly with Kingston Stockade. Shout out to the 8 or so folks who are coming up. I've been in touch with their supporters group. Really excited to hang out with those guys tomorrow, and yeah, welcome in advance to Virtue Field.
All right. Well, that's the end of the podcast for tonight. So any final words from either of you guys?
Up the green.
Up the green.
Up the green, and let's be safe, everyone. All right.